In life, there are memories that will never leave us.
I like you very much, just as you are.
But sometimes, those memories are suddenly
Bridget.
all we're left with.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I got to spend basically a full year in London making the film, plus more back and forth. And I really clicked sort of back into what it felt like to grow up here. Here, I say here, but I don't mean here. There, miles away.
Ah, Mrs. Darcy.
Mr. Wallaker.
Why is your granny wearing pajamas?
Had you worked with any people in the theatre that you collaborated with?
Oh, on this? That's a good, I don't, funny enough, I don't think so. No, although a lot of the actors that are in this are absolute, like Josette Simon is a queen of like UK theatre. And she's, funnily enough, Isla, that's how I ended up asking Isla to do a little cameo in this, because Isla Fisher and I had had workshopped a play bloody years ago. I mean, too many years ago. But she was so sensational in it that I always wanted to do something else with her.
My advice to you is put your own oxygen mask on first.
You just have to get laid.
Shaz is right.
Oh my God.
It's been 4 years now.
You're effectively a nun. A very, very naughty nun.
I've set you up on Tinder.
What's Tinder?
Who's the driving force? Because I kind of think, like, is it Helen Fielding or is it, Renee? Like, in terms of the sort of voice? Because I guess with Helen, she lost her husband recently.
Yeah. Well, it was not recent, but it was certainly something she was writing about when she wrote the book, Mad About the Boy. You can't separate. I mean, it's a really interesting question because, you've got this thing, which is Bridget Jones, and you cannot separate Bridget Jones from Helen Fielding, right? Because Helen Fielding created this character out of in those newspaper articles all those years ago. And it was so confessional and so open and so sort of like blurted right out on the page, spoke to everyone. So that's Helen. But then it became Renee, and Renee embodied this thing. And so there's this weird like phenomenon where you've got like, Bridget is both of those women. And I think, and they're two fantastically strong voices and women, which is not lost on a franchise which is about, a woman living in London. It's really important that those voices are there. For me, I can't separate at this point Renee from Bridget. Like, Renee is Bridget Jones to me. Especially in the world of the films, like, Renee brings so much, experience with the character and love of the character and is the character. So, I got fortunate because I got to, ping pong between them.
Sounds a little strange to have a friendship with a film character, but that's what it feels like. You're having a reunion with your friend. The world has changed so much in the nearly 5 years since we began the journey. It's such an interesting thing for a fictional character to move through life at the same pace as the folks who relate to her and love her.
Who hired you? Was it working title or like?
My story in it was actually I was a friend who I didn't know was a mutual friend of Helen's as well, and we were just at a dinner, and I think I'd done some work that Helen liked, and she started to talk about that there's another book, and I didn't even know there was another book. What's the book about? And she was like, I'm adapting it into a film. And as soon as she said, like, it's really about, like, what happens after Mark Darcy, and I was like, oh, that's a film that I'm really... Because I don't feel necessarily qualified to have made, let's say, the second Bridget Jones, because that is such a kind of comic sort of delight, that whole, the world of those two films, the second and the third. And that's not my kind of métier, really. But as soon as Helen started to talk about, like, oh, Mark Darcy's not there anymore, and that she'd lost her husband, I suddenly, oh, that's something that I'm really interested in. How to balance, like, the warmth of Bridget and the sort of optimism and joy of Bridget with the very, very intense feelings of loss and grief that character would have. So then it became like talking to Helen about it, and then talking to Working Title about it, and of course talking to Renee about it, and that's the sort of the ring that you walk through.
It seems like the leading voice in TV is the writer. That's what.
Because they say that the TV is a writer's medium. I think it is in some senses, in a global sense, but it depends what you're working on, to be honest. Like, one of the great joys that I've had is that if you work on a show like, I feel like the more confident the showrunner in their voice, the more open they are to a directorial voice as well. I mean, I can completely say that one of the great gifts of Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, who of course created Better Call Saul, is that they're so in love with cinema, both of them are brilliant directors as well, that all they say to directors, and I was lucky enough to produce that show with them, but like even a guest director coming in, they would say, bring your movie, like do anything. Like the director would say, oh, I was thinking that I could do this and a bit worried because it's not. They would say, no, this is yours. We're here to make your film, and it's really generous. And you're right to say that the overall deals in TV are with writers because it's such a content-driven market. But films, I think, are still. I think films are still recognized and are essentially that you need the director to be the showrunner. You have to, because everything is has to be filtered through a point of view, and that's part of the director's job.
If you don't shag him, I will.
How old are you?
28.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm 29.
I mean, I genuinely believe that if there were like 5 directors who were given the chance to make the same movie, no 2 movies are going to be the same, right? Like, it's just a fact, and so you bring everything that you are, I guess, and the things that, in the end, you just have to be the barometer for your own film. And if it moves me, that's my requirement, if it's going to be moving. Or if it makes me laugh, that's my requirement for saying, cut, moving on, we got it, So in the end, you can't hide from the fact that it's your film. And so you hope that there's a marriage of material and and how you apply that material and how you make it, and I guess that's what Renee's talking about. That it just so happened that the tone of voice that appeals to me, hopefully matches. You hope it matches the tone of voice that makes the film the best it can be.
So in terms of careers and things like that, was there always the plan to move into films eventually? And obviously to Leslie must have been like
well, that was it. I
mean, life-changing.
I'd wanted to do a film for a while because like there is there is such an appeal, at least to me, to do something that is a whole world, that is a long form, because you just want you want that experience, I think, at least once in your life as a director. And I come from the theatre, and the theatre actually is that. Theatre is much more like film because you have to create the world of it, the set, you build the characters, and then it's over. And To Leslie was this like tiny little thing that we did in start to finish in 19 days, and like no one was looking over our shoulders. It was just us, me and Andrea and Lark and my DP and Chris, my editor. There's a few of us making the film, and so I definitely got the bug from that. Because it was extremely rewarding to be able to tell her story, and find a way in and out of it. And so I think that's how I approached this film too, is just to make it like a small film. Susie Lavelle, who's my cinematographer for this film, is absolutely brilliant. I mean, she shot Normal People, which I don't know if you ever saw that show, which is gorgeous in its follow-up conversations with friends. They're just so beautiful and intimate. She's gone on to do Severance. I mean, she does like really amazing range of work. And so here it was about like exactly as you say, how does the cinema support the characters? You know what I mean? And support these amazing actors that we have. That's how we approached it.
The huge success and appeal of these Bridget books and films is about it's okay to fail. And let's laugh at our failure.
All of her ups and downs and struggles being presented with such a brilliant comic paintbrush.
To really include the audience in the journey of the character.
I mean, I think this is a bit of a charmed experience, though, because I've never made a big film ever, so I'm certainly no expert on it. But I got very lucky doing it in this world because Bridget Jones is beloved, right? And it's driven by its central actor. I mean, this is Renee Zellweger. Is, to your point earlier, is the sort of charm at the heart of this thing. And so if Renee's on board with the tone, that you can make that tone. That's what we're going for. That's what we're driving at. I don't know that. I mean, it'd be hard to do that in another big franchise, I feel like, because there might be so many voices. I don't know. Some directors talk about multiple voices, wanting things in franchises. That wasn't really how it was in this one. So yeah.
Okay. Well, it's been really nice.
It's lovely to talk to you too, Dov. Thank you.
Bridget Jones is back.